guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a comparison video today between arguably two of the most unique shoes currently on the market, the Nike Hypervenom Phantom and the Puma evoPOWER 1. There are some pretty distinct differences between both of these two shoes, so if you're trying to decide between both of these models, today's video will definitely make that buying decision a little bit more clear and hopefully a little bit easier. If you guys are interested in more information on the overall performance of either of these two shoes, you can find links to the review pages on my website down below in the description of this video. Check out the full written reviews. There's lots and lots of extra information that you will not find in today's video. Also, leave a comment down below. Let me know which of these two models is your personal favorite. And of course, give your reasoning, because like I said, there's some pretty distinct differences here. So if the Hypervenom is your favorite, leave a comment. Let me know why or why not. Or if the evoPOWER 1 is your favorite, let me know why or why not down below in the comments. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. As far as uppers go, the Hypervenom Phantom and evoPOWER 1 fall under the thin synthetic category, for me at least. And really the main similarity here is not so much the feel of the two, but more so the fact that both Nike Skin and Adapt-Lite Synthetic are so different from everything else out there on the market that it's kind of hard to compare them to anything else, which is why we're talking about the Hypervenom Phantom versus the evoPOWER 1 today. Now, starting off with the upper on the Hypervenom Phantom, the shoe obviously features Nike Skin. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with it at this point. Nike Skin is made out of a mesh-based layer, which is what you can see gives the shoe its unique honeycomb-like texturing. Over top of that honeycomb mesh internal layer, you have several membrane layers of polyurethane. They're extremely thin, and on certain colorways are almost see-through. And then over top of that polyurethane layer, you have your X-ray texturing that gives the boot a slightly waxy finish, providing a little bit of additional grip on the ball. And then of course it's finished off with ACC all conditions control, giving this boot a slightly grippier touch on the ball in wet weather playing conditions than you might normally get. Overall, it's a thin synthetic material with a very slight amount of padding to it, and considering the thickness of the material and that it's very, very thin, it's extremely flexible and has a nice sock-like level of comfort, more so than any other thin synthetic soccer shoe currently out there on the market. What also makes this shoe unique is that while it is a thin synthetic, which normally tend to be very rigid, this actually has the ability to stretch. So if they feel a little bit snug from right out of the box, don't worry, give them some break-in time and they'll feel a lot more comfortable for you. Now moving on to the evoPOWER 1, again, this is kind of one of those materials that's difficult to compare to anything else and is just very, very unique when it comes to overall feel. Something like the Hypervenom Phantom is going to provide what I would categorize as a unique take on a barefoot touch on the ball, and that the upper is very thin, but at the same time it does have a slightly padded feel, whereas the evoPOWER 1 I guess would be categorized very similarly in that it is a thin synthetic upper in the form of this Adapt-Lite material, but you also have the addition of the AccuFoam padding that is basically embedded into the upper itself that does make for a slightly leather-like quality to the shoe. So again, you're going to get kind of a barefoot feel from the evoPOWER 1, but perhaps with a little bit of extra padding that you wouldn't necessarily get with the Hypervenom Phantom. So that would be the main distinction here when it comes to the type of touch each of these two shoes are going to provide. So again, you get a very thin Adapt-Lite synthetic material here. You can see it's ultra thin, and it's a one-way stretch microfiber synthetic. So it's designed to stretch vertically, which is kind of a unique idea, not so much horizontally. So you're going to get that vertical stretch, which goes along with the concept of striking the ball on the evoPOWER 1, where the forefoot area is extra flexible on purpose. So you have that natural flexibility in your toes that's supposed to increase the power in your shot. It's a study that Puma did. It's really one of the main focuses of the evoPOWER design. If you want more information on that, I will leave a link in the description, not a link in the description, an annotation on screen to my pros and cons review where I explain that more clearly. So go ahead and check that out. But basically you have a very thin synthetic material. It's ultra soft, very, very comfortable. And then you have these very soft, spongy AccuFoam pads that are embedded into the upper itself. Now, like I said, this makes a slight modification on the overall touch on the ball in that it is very leather-like at first. It's kind of an interesting feeling. They're, like I said, a little bit thicker than you might expect, but at the same time they're also much spongier than you might expect, but don't necessarily take away from the responsive feel that you get from this shoe when striking the ball. It just adds that little bit of extra padding that makes for a slight sensation of accuracy and just a really good feel when it comes to just making touches and juggling and stuff like that. So overall, I would say that both of these shoes are extremely unique when it comes to overall ball feel. It's more a matter of whether or not you want something that's going to be ultra thin and more of a true barefoot experience, or something that's going to be a barefoot experience but a slightly modified one, and that you do get that little bit of extra leather-like padding from the evoPOWER 1 as opposed to the Hypervenom Phantom. As far as sole plates and stud patterns go, this is where the Hypervenom Phantom and evoPOWER 1 veer off in opposite directions. Now with the evoPOWER 1 sole plate, I definitely think that it's a unique design. It's a very interesting concept from Puma. Is there a lot of truth to what they're actually saying with this particular design? In my opinion, no. But is there a noticeable difference in feel? Absolutely. Now basically this sole plate is designed with the natural flexibility of your foot when striking the ball. Imagine striking the ball with no shoes on at all, where your foot flexes, your toes curl in, and you have, like I said, that natural flexibility, that unrestricted flexibility to your foot. That is what this particular sole plate is trying to mimic. So not only in the forefoot is it flexible this way, it's also flexible the opposite way. So when you do kind of curl your toes and clench your foot to strike the ball, the shoe is not going to restrict the natural flexibility of your foot quite as much as a traditional soccer shoe. That's also why you have the one-way stretch microfiber Adapt Light synthetic. So definitely a very, very interesting design choice by Puma. Like I said, it does make for a relatively unique feel, and as of right now, it is the only shoe on the market that features this particular design element. They are claiming that it will allow you to shoot the ball with more power and make your shot more accurate. Is that the case? Absolutely not. I would even go as far as to say that you're not even going to notice the flexibility feature all that often. You really have to connect in order to feel that flex back responsive feel from the evoPOWER 1. But when you do get that kind of flex back sensation on your foot, it definitely is very, very rewarding, and it definitely is a cool, unique feeling that, like I said, you can't get from any other soccer shoe at this point in time. Also featured on the sole plate is what they call the gradual stability frame, which is essentially this support beam running through the middle. It allows for a really solid underfoot feel, but at the same time doesn't restrict the flexible design of the sole plate itself. So definitely a very interesting feature there as well. And then as far as the stud pattern goes, it's a combination of kind of a speed boot style of stud pattern and a power boot style of stud pattern. So you do have your 4 conical studs that are fairly narrow in profile and also relatively aggressive. These act as your kind of push-off points at the front of the shoe, so when you're making a sprint, making a quick cut, kind of doing some twists and turns, these conical studs do a really good job of providing some good traction and maneuverability, whereas these bladed studs in the forefoot area are there more or less to act as your push-off point. So when you're making hard lateral cuts and stuff like that, you have these 2 larger studs on the outside of the shoe that, like I said, just perform very, very well. And then you have that stable feel under the heel with your 4 bladed studs. So not an overly complex design, but definitely one that works very, very well, especially with the flexibility of the sole plate. You always have as many studs under your feet as you can possibly have, simply because the sole plate moves very naturally with your foot. Now, like I said, these 2 shoes kind of go in opposite directions as far as feel, and that's because the Hypervenom Phantom features a different style of sole plate. It's one that is more designed around being a little bit stiffer, a little bit more responsive, which isn't a bad thing at all. I personally prefer sole plates like this as opposed to stuff that is very, very flexible. But again, that's just me and it's a personal preference. I do think that the feel you get from both of these shoes is still premium. One is not better than the other. But like I said, the feel of the sole plate is definitely very different going from the Hypervenom Phantom to the evoPOWER 1. So with this particular sole plate, you have a glass nylon base, which is the shiny black material, and it is going to be kind of that, like I said, that responsive base, the slightly stiffer feel to the shoe, especially from right out of the box. Give it a couple hours of wear time and it won't feel quite as stiff. And then of course you have your P-Bax overlay, whereas this particular sole plate is made 100% out of P-Bax material. On top you have a conical stud pattern with your bladed stud here at the tip, a very mercurial-esque stud, and then 1 bladed support stud in the middle. The stud pattern overall is very much based off of the mercurial stud pattern, but instead of being bladed studs, as you can tell, they are a very narrow conical stud. They penetrate the ground very, very well, giving you a nice amount of grip at push-off in pretty much all directions. And because the studs are conical, you still have really nice maneuverability when planted, giving you that nice freedom to twist and turn in pretty much any direction. It's a very good traction pattern with very little restrictiveness, and because you get that slightly responsive feel from the sole plate when running, again, it's just one of those sensations that I really, really like about the Hypervenom Phantom. So when it comes to sole plates and stud patterns, very different designs, but both perform extremely well. For the sake of comparison, we're going to weigh in the Hypervenom Phantom and the evoPOWER 1 in real time. Keep in mind these are both brand new pairs. The Hypervenom Phantom is a 9 US and the evoPOWER 1 is a size 9.5. So I'll throw the Hypervenom on the scale first, and you can see that these guys weigh in at 6.9 ounces. So they're very, very lightweight, as you would expect from something that is more or less marketed as a speed boot, if you will. So we'll take that off the scale. We'll throw on the evoPOWER 1, and you can see that these guys weigh in at a little bit more, 7.4 ounces. So there's a 0.5 ounce difference between the two shoes. Is this a noticeable amount of weight? Maybe a little bit in hand, but when they're on your feet, honestly, they're both extremely lightweight, certainly are not going to weigh you down. And in my opinion, weight should not be the deciding factor if you are trying to choose between the evoPOWER 1 and the Hypervenom Phantom. Alright, here's a look at the Hypervenom Phantoms as well as the evoPOWER 1s on feet. Now, like I mentioned earlier, these are both thin synthetic uppers, and for that reason, they definitely have a tighter fit about them. Now, starting off with the Hypervenom Phantom, it features what Nike calls the X1.1 last, which is a little bit narrower in the toe box area and slightly wider in the forefoot, even a little bit wider than average for a shoe of this type in the midfoot area. So as long as you don't have excessively wide feet, this is one of those shoes that's going to fit you pretty well. Out of the box, you will notice a little bit of a snug, tight feel in the toe box area. But like I mentioned earlier, Nike Skin has that unique ability to stretch and form to your foot. So as long as the shoes aren't uncomfortable from right out of the box, they're a little bit tight, give them some wear time and you'll find that they stretch and form to the exact shape of your foot, making for an extremely comfortable and very natural feel. As far as the evoPOWER 1 goes, there are rumors going around that this is an extremely wide-fitting shoe, and as you can see side by side with the Hypervenom Phantom, that is definitely not the case. It's wider than average for a thin synthetic soccer shoe, but by no means excessively wide. If you do have excessively wide feet, I don't think that either of these two shoes would be a great option for you. But as far as the evoPOWER 1 goes, again, the Adapt Light Synthetic is very thin and flexible from right out of the box. Nice, comfortable feel. You're going to see the toe box area has that kind of anatomical shaping where it comes to a bit of a point at the big toe and then kind of wraps around very naturally with the shape of your foot. A nice fit, in my opinion. A little bit wider all the way through in comparison to the Hypervenom Phantom. But for the most part, again, if you have excessively wide feet, neither of these two shoes are going to be great options for you. One other thing with the evoPOWER 1 is you're not going to get the same stretch out of the synthetic upper as you will out of the Nike Skin on the Hypervenom Phantom. In terms of sizing, I wear my usual size in the Hypervenom Phantom. They run absolutely true to size. My usual size 9 US fits me absolutely perfect. So again, if you're looking to order a pair of these, definitely recommend going for your normal size for the best possible fit. With evoPOWER 1, I found that I needed to go half a size up. So instead of wearing a 9 US, I bumped up to a 9.5. And again, the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you're looking to buy the evoPOWER 1, I would recommend going a half size up. Whereas if you're looking to buy the Hypervenom Phantom, I would recommend going true to size. Alright guys, that's it for my comparison of the Hypervenom Phantom and evoPOWER 1. I know the question that is on everybody's mind is which is my personal favorite of the two models, and I have to say that that's a pretty tough call for me. I really, really like the Hypervenom Phantom. It was one of the best shoes we saw released in 2013, whereas the evoPOWER 1 is definitely much more recent release, but at the same time, it's such a unique design and it really does perform well. So I think that at any point in time, my decision might change a little bit, but if you ask me right now which shoe I would want to wear in a game today, it probably would be the evoPOWER 1. I just really like the unique feel of this shoe, and I think that the design elements that Puma implemented on the evoPOWER 1 really does set it apart from everything else out there. But like I said, that is not taking away anything from the Hypervenom Phantom. Either way, you really can't go wrong with either the Hypervenom or the evoPOWER 1. Both fantastic shoes with their own unique qualities. So again, if you are interested in more information on either of these two shoes, be sure to check out the full written reviews linked down below in the description of this video. On those same review pages, you'll also find buy it now links with the best prices online, including exclusive SR4U coupon codes, allowing you to pick up either of these two shoes in multiple different colorways for the best possible prices online. Now, if you have any questions regarding either of these two shoes, feel free to leave your comments down below. And also, if you have any suggestions for other comparison videos you'd like to see, again, leave your comments. I'm always open to hearing what you guys want to see as far as content goes. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.